Welcome to Spill Your Heart, Taming the Beast social media schedule, social media. My name is Natalie Callback, and this is our third episode. I'm super excited about the topic that we have today and also our wonderful guests, and I will introduce them soon, but I want to start with some things from the studio here. Marsha Falk, Birgit Kopsen, and I have done this workshop together. It's called Beyond the Paper. It's an online workshop where we explore other material than just paper as substrates to create some art books. And we're using all kinds of fun techniques and art materials. And we love seeing what our students have posted so far, but you can also still sign up. Kim is putting the link into the chat for you. We also, the three of us, have created a foam stamp for this workshop, which is a limited edition, and you can still purchase it and you can get it on my website, whether you are in the class or not. And I also wanted to point out that Sarah Matthews and I have our third Art Collab Zoomcast coming up this Tuesday, May 4th at noon, and the topic is I Can't Do It. I hope you will join us. Last episode, we have unveiled some boxes that we sent each other with some weird stuff in it and challenged each other to use it in an art project. And we will reveal that on Tuesday, what we did with it, and talk a little bit about the mindset of I can't do it or I can do it. The registration link is also in the chat. So, but without further ado, I want to introduce my guests today for our Taming the Beast social media episode on Spill Your Heart. And first up, I want to introduce Iris Fritchie-Cousins. She's a London-based mixed media artist. Her passion is art journaling for self-expression and self-discovery. She likes to share online about how she lives her creative life and has a fantastic and super fun vlog that is quirky and funny and great to watch. And Kim is putting her vlog channel link right into the chat as well, so you can check it out. If you want to open it and leave it open for later, then that's where you find it. Joanne just said your vlog is great. That's super nice. And then we also have Jimmy Leslie here. Oh, here's some artwork of Iris that I wanted to show, but I'm not a great multitasker, as you can tell. So, and then here we have Jimmy Leslie. He is a painter, former college art professor, and currently a resident artist for the fine art brands Liquitex and Winsor & Newton. Jimmy directs the education programs for the brands in North America, and he works with the marketing team on assets related to new product development. Jimmy has his own Instagram account, which we will also show in the chat at Jimmy Leslie Art. But ever since the pandemic started last year, he has been also posting regular tutorials and videos for work from the Fine Art Collective Instagram account, which is at TFACNA, which Kim will also post in the chat. And then last but not least, we have my friend Julie Pfeiffer-Balzer. Here she is. Wow, look how she popped up. So Julie is a maker, artist, writer, and vlogger, and she covers everything that you can imagine, from painting, paper crafting, jewelry making, you name it. It's on her do-it-yourself art blog, Balzer Designs, and she also posts a ton of work, or like behind the scenes, on Instagram, and she also has a vlog which was called is called Julie's World. Kim is going to put her website in the chat because she has a ton of stuff. So good stuff. Hi guys, I am so excited to have you all here. Let me still real quick introduce this topic, and then I can't wait to have you guys join the conversation. So I've been thinking about social media a lot. I do a couple things for years, like my blog, but also Facebook, a Facebook page, and Instagram. And I dabble once in a while in maybe Pinterest and not. And then I do a little bit of Twitter or not. And I think it's like so amazing that sharing your work as an artist has never been easier than it is right now. Like there's a ton of things, not only your artwork, but also the process behind the scenes that you can share, right? Or as a maker or crafter, you can share everything you do. And you can really connect with like-minded people and students. And I really love that part of social media. But then there is another part of me that really, really, to be honest, dislikes social media. And it feels like it's this like multi-headed monster, this beast that wants to be fed all the time. And of course, there is a lot of topics out there, like how do you show up? How often do you have to post? What do you have to post? What people want to see? And sometimes I feel that makes me feel really stressed out, because I feel like I don't want to create for, for social media. I don't want to be a content provider, right? So there are these things that make me shudder as well. So my feeling is very ambivalent in terms of social media. And so my first question would be to my guests, am I the only one who feels ambivalent, or do you guys have figured it all out? You're like, doesn't face me. I know exactly what I want to do. Who wants to go first? So many takers. Come on, Jimmy.
Okay, I'll go first. Hopefully everyone can hear me well. We had a little sound issue beforehand, so hopefully that's the case. Yeah, I feel very ambivalent about it. So I have my own personal Instagram and then one for my job working for an art materials manufacturer. So it's part of my personal life. It's part of my professional life. And Instagram is the only social media I choose to be involved with. And I think the thing you have to ask yourself is, why are you on social media? What's your goal? What's it doing for you? And I have to say, for my own personal Instagram, I really started that for nothing more than a way to just keep people updated about my work. So if I was talking to someone and they said, "Where can I see your work?" It was always this thing that can be easily updated. And for me, Natalie, I make my money working as an artist for an art materials manufacturer. Prior to that, I was a college art professor. So there are so many people out there, yourself included, who hold workshops, and when there's not a pandemic, they travel around the country. And for people like that, I think it is absolutely vital, because that's how you get the word out about what you do. And prior to my time in working for an art materials manufacturer, I had a studio aside from my personal studio that was a teaching space. But it was the pre-social media days. So I know this is crazy. There was ads in newspapers. I mean, it seemed like you were throwing money away trying to reach people. So I think you really do have to do that. You have to ask yourself why you're doing it and what the purpose is. And then you can sort of have a game plan and a mission.
I like that. So we have the why. How are you guys feeling about it, Iris and Julie? I mean, obviously you kind of like it. Do you want to go first, Iris? I just saw your hand kind of.
Yeah, I love social media, but I also hate it. So just, like, I love what it can do. I love what it allows me to do. I love sharing my work. I love the fact that people can see my work. But I hate the way that it kind of also brings out the worst version of myself. Like, oh, that person has more followers than me. That, you know, this post got this many likes, but that post only got like half the likes. Why? What hashtag should I use? And it's kind of that when the technical side of it and the kind of the emotional side takes you away from sharing your work and having it seen and having an interaction with people who want to see it, when that gets lost, that's the really difficult part for me. And that's why it's always kind of like this double-edged sword, being on social media.
That's a very good point, and I definitely want to talk a little bit about that too, with you guys, about comparison and bringing out the worst in us. Julie, how do you feel about social media?
In general, I think that social media is useful and it can be fun, and it can also be toxic. And like anything else that's fun and useful, you have to figure out how you're using it, you know, and it's back to what Jimmy said about like, why are you there? I will say this, which is I am the breadwinner for my family. I could not support my family and pay my mortgage and put food on our table without having the ability to reach out to people. But that said, it's not exactly a sales platform. And I think that's where people lose it a little bit. You can't sort of jump up and down. And this is where people start to get angry, right? Because you post something and you need people to buy it and they don't. And you're disappointed. And you see them buying other people's stuff and you don't understand why, and you're upset and you feel like the algorithm's killing you, and you get into, you know, like this pile of stuff, and then everybody's better than you, and it's like this horrible thing. But I think you have to take a step back and remember that in the end, social media is about community. And you either have to be creating a community or serving a community or doing something that's contributing, you know, out there for people to even be interested in sort of what you have to offer. And I think this is true whether you're representing a brand or whether your brand is yourself. And I think for me, the double-edged sword of social media is more of a question, which is how big a piece of yourself do you give away? And I know now that I have a little son, you know, my son is 17 months old, and it was a big sort of figuring out negotiation about like, how much were we going to share, you know, and what was appropriate there. And even about, you know, I did a huge home renovation. How much of the home renovation do you show? How much do you, and because this is just my opinion, obviously, but I think that if you're sort of doing social media in a way that is meaningful to other people, you are giving of yourself. And that can actually be as hard as anything else, which is if you share something deeply important to you, or you share a big part of yourself and it either gets pooped on, or people say mean things, or worst of all, I suppose, it doesn't even get noticed. You know, so I think there's a lot to negotiate in there. There's a lot to navigate.
That's so well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah. Okay. Bye. No, I think like you touched on a couple things too that I have in my, you know, things that I wanted to talk with you guys, like privacy, and I think that's a big one. Like especially when you're also talking about like art is your lifestyle, right? Like you're teaching, you're showing behind the scenes, you want to share some of that, but how much do you share of it? Like I personally, I don't have kids, right? But I never show my husband cats. I show my cats, right? But I never really show my husband, very rarely. I rarely show friends. I have a lot of friends that actually totally despise social media. So you might get the thought that I don't have, I mean, now it's pandemic anyway, but so I don't have friends. But pre-pandemic, you know, you would be like, does she have friends? I do, but they hate social media. They don't want to be on it, right? So I don't share that. I value their opinion on that, and I don't post them, right? But yeah, that's a very good point about like how much do you give away. I would be interested in that point, Jimmy, because so you're doing a lot of social media for your work, and now you're staying at home because of the pandemic. So you have been now in this weird situation that you're working from home for your company, right? You're not
Right.
like, yeah, I mean, you're in your private art studio, but now you're doing things from home for your company. Do you feel that you have been thinking very good and about like still being, this is my company, this is Jimmy Leslie, or is there some merging?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Yeah, so what Natalie's referring to, so at TFAC NA is the Fine Art Collective North America, which is the education program that I run for the brands, and I manage that Instagram account. And I'm all over the place there. My face is everywhere. I do product videos for the company, doing live streams. So I am all over the place. And in my own Instagram account at Jimmy Leslie Art, I'm nowhere to be found. Yeah, except maybe in a self-portrait. There's probably been 1 or 2 times where I've been on there in video form to announce something, and I've actually deleted it after the fact because I'm sort of half joking, but nobody needs to see me more than they see me on the Fine Art Collective North America, at least for my liking, Matt. Yeah, I think my family would agree with that too. But so there's a very, I kind of set boundaries. When I did start my Instagram account, I said it was only going to be my images, and that was it. And, Julie brings up good points about, kids and home renovations and what do you do? And as she said too, it's only my opinion, but sometimes, and I think this is where the comparison comes from, right? We see everybody's on social media, and wow, they're in exotic locations and they're doing lovely things and they've just bought a new car. And sometimes it just breeds this, they suck. They're showy, they're this, they're that, all that sort of stuff. So I think you have to manage that stuff too. And of course, the comparison part of it. But it goes back to my original statement. You have to know what it's doing for you. And again, to go back to Julie's point, and I 100%, it makes sense. She's a breadwinner and she's running a business, and social media is such a major part of that. She would be crazy not to embrace it and run with it. Who wouldn't? And I think for me, for my personal, again, it's just sort of a daily way to connect with people. And I've made some good connections. And even though it hasn't been a sales-based thing, I have sold stuff through there. But again, I'm at that other end of the thing where I went from academia to a corporate job, which takes care of all this stuff. So I don't have to use it for that sales part of it. And it can be more of a genuine connection, she mentioned.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons, besides that I really love what you do and you're an awesome mentor too. I think that's why I wanted to have you on the panel, to have that other view, of course, as well, as an artist, right? So Iris, you're doing a lot of vlogging lately, and how did you did some parameters of what you're gonna show and
it's a good question. Because I pretty much show everything, but that's because I feel comfortable with it. Like, I don't do anything that feels uncomfortable. And for me, it's been really a lot about it's not about what to show, but it's about how I feel about what I'm showing. And so when I'm vlogging, I'm only ever vlogging when I feel like it. So sometimes, which actually it gives a slightly skewed view of my life, because obviously I'm going to be feeling like vlogging much more often if I am feeling good. So you don't see me feeling bad that often, but sometimes I actually do feel bad and I feel like vlogging. So it gives a kind of a more balanced view of what real life is. And it's been kind of also a deliberate decision to start vlogging and continue vlogging, even though my house is a mess and I don't have a designery house with nice things on the walls or whatever. And basically feeling comfortable to show that anyway, and to say, okay, this is just who I am, and this is what I'm doing in my imperfect way, in my imperfect space. Being able to embrace that and not stop myself until everything is perfect, it's actually freed me up to kind of really check in with myself and say, yeah, I do want to vlog this or show this or whatever, or to say, no, I don't feel like it today, and then to also just not run the camera and have that freedom.
Yeah, I see someone said in the chat, I think it creates a real connection with Iris. We love you the way you are, Iris.
Oh,
so that's
so
sweet.
nice.
Yeah. So what I want to come back to is one thing that we have said in here was the comparison thing, and what I struggled with a little bit sometimes. I'm better now. Was just the feeling that everyone just has so much to show all the time. I'm like, it wasn't about like what to show, or, you know, like I felt the comparison for me was not about the number of likes, because I learned very early. I've been blogging for, I don't know, almost 20 years now. You know, I learned early that the things that I really, really love and are dear to my heart are sometimes not the ones that create a lot of likes. So I can't create for other people to get that feedback. The feedback has to be in myself. But what I struggled with on social media is when you know, it takes me a long time to paint. I do, you know, and if I do workshops and all kinds of other administrative stuff, then I just don't paint. Like I have to, you know, do my stuff to earn money. And when I do that, I can't just post my painting. So, and then I see other people and they whip out painting after painting. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, well, how are they doing this? They must not sleep. They must not, you know, they probably never watch the news. They never have time with friends. And then I need to bring myself down and say, you know, it doesn't matter. You paint when you paint, and you share it when you share it. It doesn't matter what the algorithms are. It doesn't matter what the other people say. If I love to spend my day after, like for me, it's like I stop working. Whatever I do, whether it's painting or administrative stuff, I stop working at around 5:30 because I want to spend time with my husband or with friends, and it has become important. We both make an effort not to, you know, be on the computer or be in our offices, because we both work from home. So we have this thing like, okay, once we you know, get out of the studio or his office, that's when we do whatever we want to do, but it has nothing to do with work, or even though I love my work. So anyway, that was a long thing to say. That was where I struggled with comparison. How do you deal with the this, like, you know, comparison problem, if you have that, and reminding yourself that everyone's feed is, you know, curated, of course, too. Who wants to go first to that one? Like, how do you deal with comparison on social media?
I'll go. I mean, here's the thing. Comparison is the thief of joy, right? We all know this. It's an absolute truth. And I will tell you what I tell my coaching clients who come to me for help with their business and growing their social following, which is, imagine social media is a gym, right? And you understand, if you go into a gym, that there are people there who are built and can bench press 350 pounds. Do you know what I mean? And you're not expecting your first day to walk in and to be able to do that. But we somehow expect the first day we walk into social media, hey, I'm going to do exactly what I see that person over there doing. Why? That's crazy. The other reason is you might be there for different purposes. There's someone who stays at the gym for 4 hours every day. There's someone else who comes in half an hour, gone. You know, and that's fine. I think we have to get over the idea that there is a right way of doing it, that there somebody else, where somebody else is, you know, the place that we should be. So many years ago, I lost more than 100 pounds. I'm still overweight. but I weigh a lot less than I used to. Nonetheless, I walked into a nutritionist's office for when I was pregnant because I was required to go to nutrition classes when I was pregnant. And she said, "Oh, are you here to lose weight?" And she had no idea, right, the journey that I had been on. She just made an assumption looking at me sort of where I was. And I'm going to tell you that that is what social media is. Social media is people making assumptions about you. They don't know your journey. They don't know where you've been. They don't know how much you've improved. They don't care that you turned this ugly thing into something beautiful or better than it was. They're looking at what it is right now and bringing their own stuff to the table. So there are two things I want to tell you, which is one, that nutritionist was not the right nutritionist for me. She and I were on different pages, and that's fine. Just like the therapist you see might not be the right therapist for you, or Natalie, when you and I were in a dressing room and I said, "Oh no, my boobs are too big for this dress," and you said, "No, the dress is too small." And that is a really important difference. That is a really important difference. And so the same thing with the people who come to your social media and they're not interested in what you're making, or the people who are looking for, if people are looking for light, airy, beautiful white farmhouse, they're not going to come to my feed. And that's fine. And I think that what you do to kill comparison is you say, I don't need to be as good as someone else. I don't need to make art like that person whom I admire. What I need to do is I need to be sort of the best version of myself. It is the most extreme version of that idea of you can't control what other people say or do. You just can't, no matter how much you try, even your children. I'm learning that from a 17-month-old very quickly. But what you can control is your reactions to things. What you can control is how you handle things. And so that's the same thing, which is you can't control whether or not people come to your page. You can control what you post. You can control how you explain things. You can control how you respond to comments. You can control how you interact with other people, and also I just want to say this other tip, which is unfollow people. If people on social media make you feel bad, even if you know them personally, and they're lovely human beings, but they post so much work it makes you upset, or they're getting so many great opportunities and you're jealous, stop being mad at yourself for those feelings and do something to stop those feelings. It's much easier to unfollow somebody or to mute them or whatever it is than to change yourself into a better person. Yes, we all want to be better people, but just make your life a little bit easier,
Yeah, I think that's a good point about unfollowing, but I also think it's the more important thing for me was when you mentioned that you have to remember that we are not you don't know the whole life, right? You know this much of that person's life when you see social media. So I think that's really, really important. And again, everyone curates their social media, right? We only show you what we want you to see. As Iris said, that sometimes she might be in a bad mood and she might not vlog about that so much. So you might get the impression she is always,
I'm so bubbly.
oh my God, but you are.
That's what you think.
So, Jimmy, I guess the one thing that I want to ask you next, and then see what you guys chime into that, before we go to some questions. If you have questions for us, just throw them in the Q&A. The chat goes fast, so it's really hard to keep up with that. It's not that we ignore you, but if you want to have a question for us, just put them in the Q&A. Jimmy, do you feel so? I read something. Again, I don't remember where I did see it, but it was either a post from someone or whatever. It was something to the fact that maybe it was Jerry Saltz, who is an art critic, and I think he posted something how nowadays a lot of artists just start creating for because they have to put it online instead of really creating. Do you feel that is the a problem, that people, instead of saying I'm gonna paint something or create something because I want to, they curate themselves beforehand and are thinking, oh, well, maybe is that going to be great for social media, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an issue with me. It's funny, I had it was a colleague many years ago who was talking about social media, and she would say, let's create something that'll go viral. And I said, well, that's not exactly how viral works. All right. Now, that being said, I'm sure I could, do something on TikTok and, like you see, and I'll point to all the things that, are happening in my studio, and it would be, but that's not me. That's not who I am. Iris might have said it, or Julie, that wouldn't be me as an authentic person. And immediately it would feel creepy to me, almost like, saying, oh, I use and endorse, this thing that I don't use and endorse. It would be very odd. But if I could circle back just for a second to the comparison thing, there was something that struck me there. Is I think everyone listening has to start from the perspective that someone else is probably comparing themselves to you as well. So we run in circles like that, and also, to your concern that somebody's making work every day. I'm also going to play devil's advocate here and the cynic that maybe it's not all honest, right? So, I could go on vacation for 7 days and create 3 paintings, 3 little tiny paintings a day. I've now got 21 days of work that I could post and I could tag it painting a day. Now, there are people who are making paintings a day, but I bet you somebody's doing that too. So, again, this goes back to being your authentic self. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about that. And it's also, it's like the work you create too. There's times I've made paintings and I thought, man, I feel really good about that painting. This one's going. This is going to sell. Well, it's the one over here on my studio wall that's been here for 15 years. And the one that I liked, but I didn't feel, overwhelmed about. That went in a heartbeat, and I think that goes back to your likes too. If you're not being authentic and you're always trying to over curate, you may just hit or miss the mark rather, and then feel let down. Or again, then all of a sudden, as Julie said, you look at somebody else and oh my gosh, they got all these likes. Well, I'm not there, and then now the comparison thing starts. So I think these things go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I think you always tend to find the thing that makes you feel like crap. It's like if you're determined to feel badly and think that somebody else is doing it better, it doesn't matter whether you've got 100 followers, 1,000, 10,000, there's always someone that you can find who, you compare yourself to and they're doing it better or faster, bigger, longer, whatever. So
yeah, that's a great point, because it goes with everything, and it goes back to what Julie's saying too. We can look at ourselves a certain way in a mirror, and guess what? Somebody else is always going to be better looking. If you're playing sports, they're always going to be faster. They're going to be stronger. They're going to be better. So you really kind of have to check yourself, and again, just come into it. Was it? Oh, who said unfollow? Was that you, Iris, who said to unfollow? Or
no, it was Judy.
Yeah, and that's a great one. I think that's really worthwhile, and I do a little bit of a purge from time to time and go through and see, well, this person, or even the person, that I was following, are they still creating the content that I was attracted to in the first place? Because if I'm not, that's just another thing that'll suck my time. We can get caught up in just looking and going, well, I've been complaining about how I don't have time to get work done, but I just looking at things on social media for the last hour.
Mm-hmm. I think that was very good. I want to talk about authenticity. Oh my goodness, this is where the Germans struggles. Authenticity. Whew. I will come back to that later as a question. I want to ask a question that Tanya Ahmed put into the Q&A, and she said, I would love to hear about switching off from social media. How do you guys manage it, or do you never truly switch off? Julie, how about you?
So I schedule all my posts. I'm scheduled through May. You will not see me posting almost anything except in my stories occasionally, stuff that I haven't already made. So the way that I switch off is I don't do it consciously. I don't take breaks. I think it's great for people who do, but for me to run my business, I just don't have the ability to do it. I need to like be on there. So what I do is I never know if the baby's going to need something, and it'll be a day where I won't get into the studio, and I don't want to risk the idea that I won't be able to keep up with something. So I use Tailwind. There are a lot of other scheduling platforms out there. People use Hootsuite, they use Later, there's all sorts of stuff that you can use. And that makes it so that I can walk away and not worry about it because I just know it's happening automatically in the background.
Yeah, that's a great one. Scheduling posts, I do that a lot too. And I think, as Julie said, for me, it's like I can't switch off, forever because I need to answer students' questions, or all kinds of stuff you have to take care of. But I do try to claim like small winnings throughout the door. So for a day. So for example, I read on my iPad, and because I used to travel a lot, teaching a lot while traveling, I need to have my books in a compact area. But then if you lay in bed and you read a book and there comes emails in and you get notifications, that's not really great. So I actually deleted all the social media from my iPad, which I have close to me when I am in bed, and I won't have my phone in my bedroom at all. So it's those little things, tweaks that I kind of like, do. How about you, Iris and Jimmy? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I was just thinking, because when you started the question, I was like, well, I never switch off of social media. But now to hear you talking, I'm like, no, actually, I do. I seem to have really good boundaries, but I don't even notice them because I have them. And so I don't have any social media notifications at all. I do not want to know. I want to be the one to open the app, and then I can see what I want to respond to or what I want to do. But I don't want my phone to go bzz, 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 like respond to me, look at me. I don't want that. So I don't have that. So in a way, like I have good boundaries, yo. I didn't know.
Yo.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I
love
do.
that. That's a great tip too. Just like you are the boss of those notifications. Turn them off and tell yourself, I'm only doing this. I don't know. It's up to you, right? You can say, I want to do it twice a day, in the morning and in the evening for 20 minutes or whatever floats your boat. But these like little things, right, that keeps you distracted too.
And I've also noticed that you can really, you can learn to check in with yourself about when does it feel good and when doesn't it, and then to kind of adjust from there. Because sometimes I'm like scrolling and scrolling, I'm like, hang on, this isn't making me happy. And then, I close the app and I go and do something else.
Jimmy, how about you? What are your boundaries?
Yeah, I mean, like Iris, I don't have any notifications on either. I'm also a little bit of a weirdo with the phone, probably compared to a lot of people. There's sometimes I just don't have it with me. So if I'm going somewhere and I'm hopping in the car with my wife, I mean, obviously it's good to have a phone. You don't want to have an emergency and then need a phone, right? So I'll say, hey, do you have your phone? She's like, good. Yeah, I've got mine. So I just leave mine at home. If I'm going somewhere, with my son, I mean, he's older, he can drive. He's not 3 and driving. So if he's driving and he's got his phone, I'll leave my phone home. And there's actually some of my friends that know on a weekend it's easier to call my wife if they want to get a hold of me. So I have some kind of strict boundaries with that. I think it's because I'm on so much for work. And I also have the boundary like you, Nat. I'm usually I leave my studio here that I'm in right now is out behind my house. So the house is over that way. And usually I turn off the phone when I walk out the door here. So when I come inside, it's off. And I don't see it till the next morning. And same thing with the computer. So I think it just depends on how comfortable you are with that. But I was never I was never a kid that was on the phone, a lot. When it was landlines, and when I was a college professor, I was probably one of the last people to actually have a phone. And my students always came up with these odd scenarios, like what are you going to do if your wife breaks down in the middle of the night on a lonely road? To which I would reply, "Why is my wife out on a lonely road in the middle of the night? Like, what? What's she doing? She's probably cheating on me." I don't know. Yeah, so you just have to find out what boundaries are comfortable for you, I think.
I also want to say that that when I was working, I didn't study art as Iris and Julie. We're self-taught artists. So when I worked in a law office for 17 years as a paralegal, I used to tell their lawyers there, because they would always be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe the clients are taking so much of my attention and they want to be there all the time." And I would be like very straightforward as a 30-year-old. I'd be like, "Hey, you gotta teach them. Like, you are not available all the time, right?" And sometimes now I think about that back. Like, if you make yourself available to everyone all the time, then you're giving that expectation to other people, right? So you need to show where the boundaries are. So I'm trying to get better with that too, because I have this personality that if I feel there is an inbox that, I haven't replied to everyone. I know there are some more relaxed people here in this group, but like I get really nervous. Like if there is if I see a notification from Instagram and I didn't reply to that right away, then I feel stressed that I might forget, and then someone might be disappointed that I didn't, right? But I'm like, you don't have to. You just put yourself in and say, maybe on the weekend, I won't reply to any comments or questions. I will do that on Monday. Why do I'm setting the expectations as well, right? So again, I'm not really good at it, but.
But, I think you have to also consider, and again, I'm being a bit cynical here. There are good things about social media. I don't think there's a real debate with that. But I also do look at it, and you have to realize that all social media platforms want you to look at them more and more and more, because they want you to see ads, and then more ads pop up for the things you clicked on, and the clickbait that's in your email that pops up. So that's why I think the boundaries are so important. And I read this article by a gentleman. It was about social media, and he said what he does. I think his demographic, he was like a 62-year-old white male. And so he said what he did is he would do Google searches on his computer before he shut it off. So he Google Justin Bieber, and then making pot holders, and then he'd Google climbing the Andes, and he said, they're never going to be able to pin me down for what they want to sell to me. I'm throwing off the algorithm. And of course it was tongue in cheek, but I like that he was joking about taking control back.
That is very funny. Here's another question from our audience. Nancy Wald asked, does anyone use Facebook to reach out to a community and specifically use the business page? I haven't really figured it out yet. I tend to stick to Instagram. I personally have a business page, but I do more nowadays probably in my community page, which is Nets Hood, where you can, it's a group and you can join and you can post. I want to hear what you guys say about it, but because I asked a question, I'm answering it right away from my view. It's just like, I think you need to figure out what if you want to do social media, what I figured out for me is you need to find out what you want to put your time in, right? So if there's a ton of social media out there, would it be better for me to be on Pinterest more? Probably. Do I want to invest time in it too much? No, I don't. I just got someone sent me a new social media invitation. I think it's called Clubhouse. I looked into that. I was like, meh, I don't know yet. I don't think I like it. Do I want to invest time in it? No, I don't. So I just like pinpoint Instagram and Facebook for me. How about you guys? What would be your answer for her? And also, do you have to be on all different platforms, or how do you handle that? Julie, you have been awkwardly quiet because we talked you in the ground.
I've never been accused of being quiet, but I'm glad that it could happen. The mute button works. So here's the deal. You don't have to be on every platform. I think that is ridiculous and impossible. But I'm going to tell you this. The most valuable thing you can do is to look at your insights on the platform you are on. If you go into the insights and you see your analytics and you see what is the age range of people who follow you, and you'll get a better sense of which platforms are better for you. My sweet spot, I happen to know, is that across most platforms, the people who follow me tend to be women. They tend to be over 50, and they tend to be English speaking. That is not everyone who follows me, but that is like the basic group. So now if you ask me which social media platform am I going to find women mostly over 50 who mostly speak English, the answer is Facebook. That's where I'm going to find a lot of them. Some are on Instagram, some are on TikTok, some are on YouTube, but the strong spot where I have the most interest, I guess, is that group. So that means I want to go there. Now, I do have a business page, and I'm a little bit odd because I don't have a personal Facebook page. I only have a business page, which has caused a number of endless issues because fighting Facebook is like an impossibility. But anyway, and I find that, for my business page, the thing that works there for me is that I'm able to cross post between Instagram and Facebook with the click of a button. So I'm able to basically sort of get people there and who don't necessarily catch it elsewhere. Now, remember, you could have 100,000 followers and maybe 20% of them are seeing your posts. You could have 1 million followers, and maybe a small percentage. So I think people get shy about posting the same thing across multiple platforms, and you shouldn't. Put it on your blog, put it in your newsletter, put it on your, website, put it on your Instagram, put it in your Instagram story, put it in your Instagram reel, put it on your IGTV, put it on your Facebook, put it on Twitter, go to TikTok, call into Clubhouse. I mean, you need to use your time and your energy, to create stuff that's good. And then you just need to package it. And like Natalie said earlier, one of the issues always with being a working artist, or especially being an artist entrepreneur, is that you probably spend 20% of your time making art. It's been 80% of it doing all the other stuff, the packaging, the photo editing, all of the administrative stuff. And that's one of the realities of it. And I think that one of the gifts of social media is that you can share that with people behind the scenes. You can talk about the things that you're doing. You can give them a sense of your small business, and how it's going. So to sort of loop back to the original question about Facebook and communities and using a business page, here's what I'd say, which is I think Natalie's method of having a group has been shown to be the most effective way of using Facebook. I got a totally random email a couple weeks ago from Facebook. They actually offer coaching to people for free. And so I have this Facebook coach that I've been working with. And we have like a 3-month relationship, and the same thing has happened to me with YouTube. I've gone through like my YouTube, training and all that kind of stuff, which is these companies want you to get better at it. And, they want you to know things. And basically what this woman said to me, which I will share with you because I don't think it's a trade secret and they want you to get better, is that video is where every platform is pushing. If you want Facebook, Instagram, any of them to push you forward, you've got to put out video. And they're really interested in live video. And so, one of the things like, you're here, you're at a webinar, you're looking at us, this is video. This is video content. And so it could be a short, quick, funny thing. It could be a very long, easy thing. And the one thing I'll say, before I go quiet again, is don't feel that you have to have professional equipment or be really good at it or anything like that before you start. When I look back at some of the old videos that are on my YouTube channel, and they're still there, I haven't deleted them because I don't believe in that stuff, they're hideous. They're hideous. I can't even use a word to describe how terrible they are. The sound is terrible. The light is terrible. The video quality is terrible. The narration is terrible. They're terrible. But you know what? Just like terrible artwork that we all have inside us and we need to get out, you have terrible videos inside you. So get them out so you can get to the good stuff. And that it really is a volume proposition. Just keep making. I would tell people that the same way I approach art is the way I approach social media. You're going to be bad at it. There are going to be terrible parts about it. You're going to struggle. Things are going to get ugly. But you know what? It's going to be fine in the end, because it's not the end until it's fine. And you just have to keep going and finding people who are like you and finding people who make you feel good about what you make and what you do. And I think that's the most important thing.
Very good. Yeah, I like that. I mean, the reason why those companies reach out to you is not because there's unselfishly want you to be better at it. They want you to be good content creators and create contents for them, right? So, which is fine if it's a benefit for both sides, right? Yeah, very, very good points. Let me see some of the questions before we what's happening? It's springing around. Jean says, I'm a big fan of Natalie's work. That's very sweet. In her Facebook pages, my question is, do artists like frequent comments from fans, or is it annoying at times? I realize most enjoy it, but I hesitate sometimes, so I don't want to come off as a stalker. I do have a productive life, believe it or not, but part of that productive life is inspiration from artists I follow. I can honestly say that I love every single comment, unless it's like something that's mean. Right. But like I am always, I mean, that sounds like kind of cheesy, but I'm like humbled when someone says something nice or even takes the time to comment on anything that I post. In terms of social media, it's actually helpful for the person who puts it out, because that it sounds horrible. That's not, I don't want to say like do it when you want to or if you feel like it, but it actually helps the artist who does social media, because then if you react to something, it changes the algorithm and helps that the person is more seen across the boards. But in any event, I love every single one. I know, Iris, how about you? Are you like...
Yeah, I love comments. I love comments, and I get very verbose, like replying to comments as well. So no, I love it. And it's like what you say, it's like why on YouTube we're always saying like, comment, subscribe. It's because those are ways that you can give your support to an artist for free. You don't have to, I love it when people buy my work or support me with a money way, but the biggest support is, clicking that like button, leaving comments, having like a meaningful interaction. It's like, it's both kind of for the soul and also actual real support,
Yeah, that's very important. I like that you mentioned that, because it's so true. It's like a free support that you can give there, because sometimes you're like, I can't afford your work, or I can't afford your workshop. If you want to support someone on social media, or if you like it, then that is a very important support. So I want to address this question here by Betsy Newberry to Jimmy, because he has done it. Is there any way for artists to get away from Facebook? Most of the groups and tutorials, etc., are on Facebook, and I've missed out on so many that look awesome because I quit Facebook for personal reasons. What would you say?
Yeah, I'm also probably the outlier here. When Natalie asked me to do this, I'm like, you sure you want me to talk about social media? I have such strict boundaries with things. I was like, I don't know that I belong. I used to run a Facebook page for work, and they migrated it over to a brand page rather than the education channel. And I loved that because it was one less thing I had to do. The same with the Twitter feed that I used to run on there as well. I mean, you can have a dummy account just to be able to see things and such like that. But I've never personally been on Facebook either. But once again, I just, how I keep on stressing here, there's a big difference between, and this is why I said in the beginning, you know, why are you on there and what are you doing? And for me, it's just an easy way for people to see what I do. And you know, I don't, because my job is over in the art materials industry and I'm always on there, it's really just this moment with my own personal social media for you to see what's happening on a daily basis. And I love those comments too. I mean, those are great. I mean, kind of, I'd almost ask if you're annoyed by comments, well, are you even involved in it, right? Because there is a nice community, and I like to make meaningful comments to people too. I think that's the key thing too, is meaningful ones. Listen, it's certainly nice for somebody to say, "Oh, beautiful," with an exclamation mark, but it's also really nice when somebody connects to something and says, "I love that passage and the way you did X, the way you did that." You know, it's almost like, you know, they're really digging in and they're really looking, and you make connections that way. But yeah, I don't know. That's a little bit of a tough one for me now. Because again, I'm not on Facebook, and I like I said, I'm so on with my job that I just I love turning everything off and not, you know, being present at home.
That was good. Yeah, I think, sorry, I think I'm talking. I was like, am I still muted? That's typical. Yes, you can see the recordings later, Sally. I might not be able to do it today. I have to edit it, but I get my second vaccine shot. So in a couple of days, you will get a link and then you can watch the recording. So yeah, I want to ask one last question, and that is, well, I wanted to get back to authenticity because I feel like that's a little bit, you know, it's a word that we throw around a lot. Like, you got to be your own self, and you know, if I look at my feed, do I feel that I am like, is that me? Like, do you know that I, you know, like to actually, I curse a lot. I don't do that on social media. Jimmy knows that. Julie knows that too. I do actually, you know, love like really loud and wild music and stuff like that, right? So is that important? Maybe not. But I'm probably, but the person that you think I am is probably a little bit different, you know, that I am really, right? And so I think it's always so funny because there's this buzzword of you got to be your authentic self. And my question is, are you really your authentic self on social media? You're curating what you put on there, right? You're deciding what you show to the world. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I just feel that this authenticity buzzword is a little bit overplayed. Like, you know, oh, you just have to be your authentic self. I'm like, if I was my authentic self, I'm sitting here till like 10 o'clock in my jammies, and you know, I look terrible, and I grumble around that I have to do social media and the laundry too because I want to paint, but I'm not showing that. But that's my authentic self. I'm rolling my eyes for 2 hours in the morning. So that's with a little bit of joke. Do you feel that authenticity and being yourself, that's a little bit misleading to people, that it is so easy to do social media if you're just your authentic self? Or do you feel like, no, I'm really my authentic self and that works? Tough question. Who wants to go?
I think I am. I mean, are we ever really? I don't know, Nat. I mean, we wear different hats with different people, don't we? I mean, sometimes, the way I am with a coworker as opposed to my dearest friend, as opposed to my wife and my kids. I mean, I don't think that's not being authentic, but we do carry ourselves a bit differently. Again, because I said I'm so out there and in front, and you will see me in videos and things on the work Instagram, the Fine Art Collective. I think I'm very much my authentic self. I'm pretty high energy when I'm on. I talk about the things that I'm passionate about, and I share the experiences from 15 years of being a college professor. So a lot of the teaching that I do on there it very much relates to conversations that I've had with students in the past and analogies that I've made that I think work on my own personal. I share the work. I share some work sometimes that I'm not overly thrilled with sometimes, although that's not necessarily the goal. But I don't do a lot of editing really. So I think that's pretty authentic as well. But you bring up the point about with kids and things like that. I definitely don't ever want to do anything that would embarrass my wife, my family, my kids. I mean, I try not to do that in real life, but I don't know that I'm always successful. So Thanksgiving, maybe, I don't know, maybe there's probably some embarrassing moments, but you know what I mean? I don't, I'm an example for my kids, or at least I want to be, and I want to be a good one. So, I don't listen. You and I might be chatting alone on the phone. Yeah, I might, our mouths might be a little bit like sailors once in a while, you and I talking, but do I write that way on social media? I think there's, but that's my authentic self too. My authentic self is wanting to be a good role model and someone for my kids. So.
Oh, I like that. That is a nice one. How about one more question? Iris and Julie, since the time is running out, you can pick either to the authenticity one, or how do you react to negative comments? Because that came up a couple times too. So let's. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I wanted to say about the authenticity. Actually, I've realized, because I've kind of meandered a lot over the years, kind of trying on different voices, trying on trying to find myself. And it is exhausting to not be yourself. And I think that's how I notice when I am being inauthentic, is when everything just feels like it is so much effort. I mean, life is an effort and life is hard work. But when you are kind of speaking from your own voice and doing things in a way that feels right, that is authentic. And when you do it that way, it doesn't have that heavy feeling of like, oh, I have to write a caption on Instagram and it has to be exactly right and stuff. No, I'm just gonna write what comes out of my fingers through the keyboard, and then it is right because it was just easy. And that's how I know that I'm being authentic. And it doesn't matter whether somebody else thinks I'm fake or whether they think I'm authentic or whatever. It doesn't really matter. And there's lots of laundry in my vlogs as well, by the way, because that is real life.
I love that. When you feel good about it, you know that you're authentic. Yeah. How about Julie? Do you want to give a last word to it?
Here's what I'd say. I wish that we could replace be authentic with let your freak flag fly. Because I think that when people give the advice to be authentic, what they're saying is don't try to suppress your weird sense of humor. Don't try to get rid of your odd obsession with frogs. Don't try to pretend, do you know what I mean, that you live in an airy mansion when you don't. Like, I don't think that they mean come here and cry and tell me that you feel bad today, and show me what the dog threw up. Like, I feel like authenticity has taken on this whole other idea. But I do believe 100% in be yourself. I think that's really important, to be who you are, but I think what I said at the beginning is still true. When you post on social media, you give away a part of yourself. And if you post your personal life along with your art, you really do have to decide what your boundaries are. And someone said in the comments, and I think this is so true, that healthy boundaries are not inauthentic. We all need to have healthy boundaries and decide sort of what we're comfortable with. And the same thing is true to dovetail into your second question, Natalie, about negative comments, which is, we all have to have healthy boundaries. And one of my healthy boundaries is I don't fight with people who say things that are bad. I have no interest in going back and forth in an argument with somebody who wants to say something negative. I also, personally, it's not a choice for everybody. I usually block people who post negative things because I have no desire to have an interaction with them again. Other people are like, oh, free speech, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. This is like you came into my house. If you come into my house and you poop on my floor, you're not welcome to come back. You're just not. So, I mean, my baby can stay. But anyway. And then the last thing I'll say that I really like about authenticity is, I think it's Seth Godin who said that when you go to a Bruce Springsteen concert, you don't want him to be his authentic self. When you go to a Lady Gaga concert, you don't want her authentic self. What you want is the show.
Right.
You want the show. And it doesn't mean that that isn't who they are as artists. But I don't want to hear a long ramble about what they did today and their personal feelings, on what just happened backstage and blah, blah, blah. I want the show. And I think that's great because everybody has a voice as an artist, as a presenter. And so you have a unique, fantastic, freak flag filled voice. And that is the only self that I think you need to worry about putting forward.
Exactly. I love that. Very good. Very good last words too. It's not about be authentic, but be yourself. I think that's a better way to put it. So I think I'm not alone in my whole notion to put it as a Fazit. Is that even a word? Fazit? Like, well, last words anyway. That, you don't have to tame the beast. You feed it when you like it, when you want to. And you are the boss of it. You're the boss applesauce, right? Mm-hmm. So that I think is the key takeaway. It was such a pleasure to have you awesome free with me. I hope you guys are checking out their social media. That's what we were talking about, right? And thank you so much. I hope you guys are coming back for the next Spill Your Heart episode, which will be on the 28th, May 28th, and we will discuss what's the point, purpose versus journey. It's a discussion on why we're making art, and my guests are going to be Mistel Kirken, Marsha Fogg, and Gwen Lafleur. And you can register through the link that Kim just posted. So thank you all, and have a great Friday and knock yourself out being yourself.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.